We built foundation and pillars of economic growth in 2014. At that time, when I became the Prime Minister, the public debt to GDP ratio in our country was 79%. And today is 43%, which is twice less than European average. And I'm very much proud of this result. At the same time, we were able to boost our economic growth through the real development of three pillars. One was foreign direct investments, another one was huge investments into infrastructural projects in our country by the state, and of course, number three, bigger consumption because of bigger wages, bigger pensions. Now, some of these pillars are in jeopardy, partly because of global situation, partly because of internal issues we were facing in the last 12 months. Particularly, the level of foreign direct investments will go down. We'll have an exact figures in a few days. Still, we are going to be number one, speaking about the countries, not only of the Western Balkans, but a bit wider area, but not even close to be compared with our results from last year. Political environment for possible investors from abroad. This is what we need to do in the months to come in order to attract more of investors and to justify anticipation of an IMF and World Bank, and they were already saying that Serbia was going to be number one country, perhaps in Europe in next 5 years, speaking about the level of growth rate. Very happy about it, but we need to work very hard in order to deliver these results. There are many questions, and not an easy answers on those questions, but let me try it. Number one, we successfully stabilized the situation here in our country. And fortunately, because of a huge patience we showed, real patience, and the fact that we wanted to appease the situation always, we avoided any kind of fatalities, any kind of victims in the last 12 months, which was not easy at all. Now the situation is totally different. I do scrutinize the polls, I see the situation, I do understand, and I'm not undermining and not underestimating what political opponents from different spectrum of political life in Serbia are actually saying, what they're speaking about, and we need to show bigger respect to them. We need to listen to them, we need to hear them, and I think that at the end they will understand that we are not adversaries, that dialogue has no alternative, and that is something that I have already been offering for quite a while, and I believe at the end, this or another way, they will accept it. And people, society has already started to discuss it, all the issues within itself, which is a good beginning at least, a good start for something bigger in the future. Number two, we need to progress on our EU path. We did many things in the recent period of time, and I'm not an expert on all this stuff. I believe that Ana Brnabić, Dubravka Siniša, they know it much better. Mm-hmm. All this stuff on voting registry, regulatory agency, and everything else that we have just delivered, and you have MPs here that know this matter much better than I do. What you have just mentioned about different sources of foreign direct investments, I'm very proud of that. That was my approach, and that was the reason, and that's still the reason why we are ahead of the others. But we had very successful business forums very recently with Brits, with Americans, with, once again, many European countries will do a roadshow again, as we were doing it in 2017, 2016, and 2018 throughout Europe. And I can tell you, I go to Niš tomorrow evening. I have a big and important meeting for this country with Ursula. She's organizing the dinner, and Antonio Costa and myself, two of us are her guests. Let's define it this way.
Do you want to give us a preview what you're going to be talking about?
I still don't know. I can imagine. I'll do my preparations on all topics, which is not easy for me. And but what I wanted to tell you, day after, or immediately after that, I fly back not to Belgrade but to Niš, southeast Serbia, and day after we'll have two grand openings of one Italian and one Austrian factory in Niš, which is Ariston and Palfinger, and at the same time we're going to open more important stuff, some logistics centers and extension and expansion of science technological parks, and we'll announce new investments from existing companies, existing factories in Niš, which is important for us, mainly Europeans. And just for you to know one thing, when you speak about Western Balkans, Serbia is 54.5% of overall Western Balkans export to European Union in particular. And you know, when everybody speaks about all the others and forgetting and not mentioning Serbia, it doesn't look, to tell you the truth, natural. It doesn't look regular. That's what I think. It's like Mozart or Meridian odds, you know, offered by them in our country. These are big betting companies, just for you to know. And well, I cannot do that, but I can say what are the possibilities. Number one possibility is that, okay, Americans give an operating license or they revoke their sanctions against Russian entities, which is not very much likely to happen. We'll not speak about percent of that, but less than 10, let's say. Then I hope that we have a much bigger probability for Russians to sell their company majority of shares of oil industry of Serbia to some of their partners, doesn't matter where or from where that company is coming, and I hope that they will do it. And number three, I hope it won't happen, is that we'll have to act as a state, and this will happen after 37 days from now. As I said, 15th of January is that day, and because some people are saying, well, Slovenia, Bosnia, because in Bosanski Brod it doesn't work, that refinery. They don't have refineries, we can survive without refinery. We are much bigger countries than Bosnia and Slovenia. We cannot survive without refinery.
And I think about 12% of your budget comes from
Now it's 10.3%. It used to be even 16%. But Serbia has progressed well in the meantime, and now it's only 10.3. But it's not only. It's a big chunk of our budget, 10.3%. But apart from put that aside, we need refinery for many reasons. First of all, we We used to call it, and I know your origin, produktavod. We don't have it. We don't have pipelines for diesel. We don't have pipelines for the other lubricants. We have only pipeline for crude oil, starting somewhere in Croatia and finishing here in Pančevo. And we cannot survive without refinery. And not to mention that we are a bigger country by itself, that the cost of operational cost of transportation would be 10 times bigger than average. And not to mention the real issue that we are 30% owners of that company. What are we going to do? Put that company into bankruptcy?
Yeah,
because we are facing now secondary sanctions. Each morning when I wake up, you just go to your bathroom and see whether you're ready for your job or not. And I have to see whether there are new news on secondary sanctions, whether there are warnings against our central bank and commercial banks, and whether we'll have to react that early morning or not, because we don't want to destroy our financial system. Both monetary and fiscal system of Serbia are by far the best in the region. We are the only country that got investment rate in
last year.
An investment grade last year from Standard & Poor, and we are just a step behind getting it from Moody's and Fitch. And now, because of this situation, even our investment grade is in jeopardy in Standard & Poor because of the situation in the oil industry of Serbia. I hope Russia is selling it to their partners, but it's not going to be the real nationalization. We'll pay on escrow account a very fair price. We are not going to take anyone's assets, anyone's capital for free. We'll pay a big price to Russians if they don't sell it before that. We'll pay it on their escrow account, and that's it.
Yeah. Russians don't.
But we have to have enough oil. We have to have enough stuff on our gasoline stations, and that's it. And that's what everybody has to understand. 15th of January is the last day. That's it. No procrastination, nothing. It's not a nationalization. It's something that we would pay for. But let me once again repeat it. You know, I see you, dear Madame Kucko, for the first time. But I see here Mr. Vaš, Bilčik, and the others. I was meeting them tens of times, at least, in the meantime. And as my friends, relatively good friends, they were always advising me, saying to me, Alexander, you put Serbia into a difficult position because of not imposing sanctions against Russia. Image of Serbia is jeopardized. They do understand a bunch of issues you're facing with, everybody does, but at the end, you have to align with that and that. And I was always rebuffing it and refusing it. And someone is, or still might be angry because we want to live regular lives. I don't believe in that. I think that Russians do understand everything. That's, I'm sure that they will, if they don't get sanctions revoked, that they will sell their company to the partner they want. But being furious or angry against Serbia on Serbia, I don't see the point. We are still the only country that has regular flights with Russia from Europe. I don't want to say that all our football and basketball teams, they play games and matches with their teams and clubs. We have a good cooperation in all different social spheres. But someone also has to understand from their side, like I was begging you to understand from the Western side, that we are a sovereign state, independent state, And I have responsibility before my citizens. And I have to deliver to them regular life, and that's it. At least some basic things that state has to deliver to each citizen, and that's it. That's what we need to do. I cannot imagine our lives with empty gasoline stations, or then what we're going to do with our healthcare centers.
Yep.
What we're going to do with our transportation system. What we're going to do with our industry. What we're going to do with our homes. What we're going to do with our families.
Yep.
It's inevitable. We have to keep refinery, we have to keep oil industry of Serbia operating in this country. Still expecting news from Moscow, to tell you the truth. Dubravka, I believe that we hoped that we were going to get that info before 1 o'clock p.m., but we didn't get it. Anyway, it will be a short-term contract. We'll see.
Right.
If it goes well, good. If it doesn't go well, we'll immediately start diversifying sources of gas as well.
Do you have already some?
Do I have some ideas? Yes, I do. I always do. I always have some reserves in my mind. But you mentioned something very important. And to give you a flavor of something that nobody else will speak about in Europe. You mentioned this is rational approach, what I have just exposed, what I was just speaking about. Yeah, I'm a rational person, pragmatic to the extent that from time to time I would like to show more emotions, but it's nothing about rational stances in today's world. And that's why I cannot anticipate many things, but very main things. I cannot anticipate what will be the case with oil industry of Serbia, how this story will end up, what would be, how the story with gas will end up here in Serbia this or another way. But because of emotional approaches, because of the fact that nobody cares about facts anymore, because of the fact that nobody wants to listen to the other side, audiatur et altera pars, that regulation does not exist in contemporary world. I'm telling you that within a year and a half, we're going to face a very big war, and people were saying that I was a drama queen and a stupid guy when I was anticipating Ukrainian war. I was speaking about it exactly on 25th of November, 3 months before it started. And nobody believed me, even my associates, my closest aides were saying, hey, you're a drama queen, and we know you, you know, it's like... But I was just scrutinizing all the data, all the figures, but more than that, I was analyzing people's emotions. Today, what is the truth? Who cares? Who cares? Nobody. What happened in Bucha? What happened in Kursk? What happened there and there? Who cares? Nobody. We are against those guys. We have to win. They have to lose. On the other side, we are against these guys, and we have to win. They have to lose. And every single day, one by another, promise and announcement of 100 billion more for weapon rearmament and ordnance. And what do you think? How this can end up? In a big detente or a big peace conference in Yalta or wherever else? No. It has to happen, and then some people will start thinking rationally. Before that, I see no rational approaches, no realistic approaches. I'll tell you what I was doing in last year. I was silent on every single offense, on every single insult that was coming from the region. Everything, and I never do this kind of blame game. Some people from Pristina were accusing me, accusing Serbia, accusing our people. I was silent. I was losing political points, but I was silent. I wanted to keep stability and tranquility. When they were doing it from Sarajevo, when they were doing it from Zagreb, I was silent. Almost never ever reacted. When they were lying, Vучić safari snipers, obvious lies, very obvious lies, I was silent. I was silent. Just avoid any kind of brawls, any kind of clashes, because we didn't need it. We don't need it at all. Because it's everything on emotional level. If we do it, they do it, we do it, just one spark might ignite an entire region. And we have to avoid it. Full stop. This is not happening in today's world. One day you have one meeting and you see new strategy made by the President of the United States and his team. And this is not a type of strategy that they will revoke tomorrow. They will, or someone will denounce it from the States. No. They will work on the base of that strategy. But did you do a real scrutinization of that strategy? What does it mean for Europe? What does it mean for all of us? I believe that nobody did it. People think it's just a small piece of paper, and who cares?
Right. Actually, I think a lot of people in Europe did a lot of scrutiny and were not that optimistic about where it's all going.
Okay, they are not optimistic, and what they do? They do tit for tat, you know. Then now we go to London, we're going to meet there, and we're going to say quite the opposite to those guys. Yeah. And then Trump will meet Putin once again, and then they will do again the same stuff. And how this will end up? There is always chance to not to happen. And I hope that I won't be right. But so far I was right, which is not a good news. Yep. I hope that this time I'm not right. You know why I'm saying this? Apart from the other things. Because everybody sees that the other side is doing a lot of preparations. A lot of preparations. Do you really think that someone will wait for the other side to do everything they wanted to do in order to modernize, develop their armies, military industries, which is not something that you can swiftly and smoothly develop? No one will wait for that. Particularly having in mind the fact that both sides know that this is inevitable. And it was said by Germans, Russians, all the others, or Russians are at least a bit more cautious speaking about it, trying to say that the other side wants to do it. But Serbia is a militarily neutral country. And I can tell you, till the end of my tenure, although I will remind you, 2022, March, April, May, Robert and Vlado, don't let me lie about us. There were hundreds of articles all over media spectrum and so-called liberal medias of Europe, United States, how Serbia was getting ready to attack countries in the region in order to support military efforts of Russia, and it was just a matter of moment, matter of time, nothing more than that. Nobody apologized to us, never ever. I'm telling you now, by the end of my tenure, which is April 2027, if I'm not mistaken, we won't be a part of any wars. Serbia is on EU path. This is our strategic goal. We'll do our best to keep our traditional ties with all our friends, but we know our path, and that's it. But we are not going to wage any wars. I'll tell you something. The biggest demonstrations ever in Belgrade were not last year, were not on 5th of October 2000. The biggest demonstrations we had actually happened in this country in 1908, after annexation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Everybody was just asking to get guns and rifles, but thankfully to Stojan Novaković, we avoided that early clash with, that was one smart Serbian, we avoided an early clash with Austrians. Then we participated in the First Balkan War, Second Balkan War, First World War. We lost 28% of our overall population. Second World War, where Serbs lost 90%, speaking about anti-fascists, 90% of overall Yugoslav, or close to 90% of overall Yugoslav people. Then all the wars during 1990s and aggression against Serbia in 1999. We don't need.
Yeah, Mr. President,
we don't need continuation of that. We need peace, we need stability, we need tranquility, we need economic development, and we'll be very stubborn, very obstinate in keeping peace and stability.
Mr. President,
we have good relationship. I do understand his position, and he does understand Serbia's position. We started discussing what was the good news for me last time I spoke to him by phone. We didn't even speak about Ukraine because people started lying. We were discussing ammunition issues. No, we didn't even mention it. We spoke through an open line, but we spoke about some projects after the war. You wouldn't believe it. And I was very happy, was jubilant to hear it, that he was focused on things after the war. And about joint actions of Serbia and Ukraine in third countries where we have some good positions, economic actions. I didn't believe it, and I was very happy to hear it. And I hoped at that time that we were getting close to an end of that clash. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But yeah, we do understand each other's position, and I know how difficult is his position today. And it's difficult for Ukrainian people. It's difficult for both troops, Ukrainian and Russians. That's terrible for both of them. First of all, I have one idea for Europeans. Can I say it?
Absolutely.
You don't believe what I'm going to say.
I do.
I'm going to propose to them, and we'll say that to Ursula tomorrow. You see, I think that accepting all Western Balkan candidates or whatever, countries, entities, however you call it, all together as a full-fledged member states of European Union is by far the best idea. If you receive one or two or three of us, what are we going to do with the others? How are we going to cope with that? How are we going to tackle all the outstanding issues? And I know that all of us used to have a kind of egoistic approach. It's us, you know. Those guys are not aligned with us. We are 100% aligned. We are 100% aligned. You don't need your government. They can just email you and you immediately approve everything. It's not a matter of that. It's about future of the region, but more importantly, it's about future of Europe. If someone wants to understand geopolitics, that's the only thing that can be done by European Union. To accept all of us all together, no boundaries between us. Serbs will feel better, Bosniaks will feel better, Albanians will feel better, Croats will feel okay. Yeah. Hopefully. And I see only good things as a common denominator for this idea. This was my idea. And this is something that I will say openly tomorrow to both Antonio Costa and Ursula von der Leyen. Number two, how people will remember me. Yeah, I started thinking about my legacy 2-3 years ago. we are not going to change because people were lying here, you know. Vучić is going to change constitution, he'll candidate himself once again. No, of course it won't happen. Maybe we can change constitution on some other issues, but on this, it won't happen. At least not during my mandate, during my tenure.
But
I
you
cannot
can be
be
prime minister, right?
Yeah, I can be, but you need public support for that, and you need my decision to accept it, which is not easy for both. And let me define political situation today in Serbia. I always say to my colleagues, to my friends, don't be too optimistic and don't underestimate our opponents. It's going to be very difficult, very hard job ahead of us, but at least it's not going to be easy for them. But on the other hand, I'm a bit tired, exhausted, and would like to find some other people to do that job in the future. Still, there is no final decision. We'll make it together within next 6 months. But speaking about legacy, I believe that we don't speak very often about it, but you need to know one thing. For the first time in Serbia's contemporary history, we have a stable, let's say, exchange rate. It has never been the case in this country before. Never, ever. Not only till 2000, but till 2012. We were using the value of money on a daily basis, monthly basis, annually. This is not happening for the last 13 years. I have a very stable currency. And people will remember that we built so many things that the other guys won't be able even to paint it in a way in the future. And I really mean it, what I say. Number of highways, motorways, kilometers of highways and motorways we built is bigger than it was built in this country since 1945 till 2012. In just 12 years. These are the facts, and no one can deny it. Number of science technological parks. Look at the face of Belgrade. It's totally different. We are going to have 20 big construction sites in this city because of, at the end, construction of metro that Belgrade as a metropolis didn't have so far. And these are the things that at the end, after a year, after some people would become jubilant because of overthrowing me, after a year, that irrational part goes down, then people will start thinking rationally, and then they will say, okay, we had good, very good years with that guy, and we progressed much better than with the others. I hope that will happen this way. Maybe I'm wrong, we'll see.